everybody, welcome to Tune of the Month and happy September! This month I have for you a little Texas tune, a little Texas tune of choice, in fact. This is a great tune that I learned from Tashina and Tristan Claridge, who are amazing Texas fiddlers. We actually grew up together as kids at the fiddle camps, and I didn't see them for a bunch of years, but last spring I got the chance to clear out a week of my schedule and go hang out with them in the mountains of California and play tunes for a week, and it was glorious. And this is one of the tunes they showed me there. It's called Crafton Blues, and I play it when I want something that's kind of sassy. And that's the tune. If you're just listening, I hope that was fun, and I'll see you next month. And if you're ready to learn it, grab your instrument. Let's dive in. All right, so I'm in F major, 1 flat, B flats, and let's start slowing this thing down. I'm going to play the A section a little bit slower. See if you can learn it just by following along with me. Here we go. So that's the A section. I was calling out the structure there that's fairly typical of tunes we've done on Tune of the Month. Part 1, Part 2, Part 1 comes back, and then there's a little ending. Right? So challenge yourself. See if you can just rewind the video a bunch of times and play with me that A section over and over and learn it that way. But if it's helpful for you to break it down a little bit, let's do that now. Alright, so if you're playing along, you probably notice that those parts feel a little longer than tunes we typically do on Tune of the Month. And if you have that sense, you're absolutely right. This is what we call a long form tune, where rather than the A section being 8 bars that we repeat, it's actually 16 bars that we repeat. Everything is built at a double length. So on the one hand, that means more to learn, but on the other hand, it's not that bad, because you may have noticed there are parts that keep coming back already. So let's dive in and find those. In the A section, there's this little theme that keeps coming back, right? It's the part that gets stuck in our heads. goes at the front of every part except for the ending. All right, so let's look at that. I call it the shuffle theme because it's the theme of the A section, and it happens to be the shuffle patterns. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And to get that, I have 2 pickups, and then I'm anchoring on this third finger C. And I'm actually, as we've done in past Tune of the Month videos, technically speaking, I am gluing that third finger down. I'm leaving it down on the string the whole time. If I don't do that, I get these flying fingers. It sounds bad, looks bad, feels bad, and certainly will never go fast with any sort of comfort. So while we're playing slowly, practice keeping that third finger down on the string while you play this A shuffle theme. So you need that glue third finger, and then those guys. All right, here we go. 2 pickups. Yeah, and to get out of there, I have that little sassy chromatic. That's a high third finger, folks. And then back to a regular third finger. That's a sassy sound common in Texas tunes. You'll hear it a lot in this tune. So when you hear that like spicy, sassy thing, you now know what to do. Let's do it again, the whole shuffle, the A shuffle theme. 2 pickups. Glue your third finger. Sassiness, I'm using that hook 3 bowing. If you don't know what hook 3 bowing means, you're probably new to Tune of the Month. You can go check out past videos where we talk about it in length, or you can just copy what I'm doing now. Basically, it's a 3-note slur starting up bow, and then 2 extra separates to finish, and that helps highlight the sassy. Let's do that sassy shuffle theme one more time. 2 pickups. Glue your third finger. Sassy. You got it? If you need more repetitions, of course you can rewind the video or pause it and practice yourself. Now to finish part 1, we need this little tag ending. Yeah, do it again, tag ending. Technique in there that we've done in past Tune of the Month videos. This is what I call a leaning double stop. We did a bunch of those in the old time tunes we've done before, especially the Yellow Barber a couple months ago. So if this is new to you, you can go check those out. Basically, the melody is just that little D minor arpeggio. But to give it an extra bit of sass, I'm going to put my second finger on both strings here and lean my bow across to the A string to get that double stop. I call it the leaning double stop. And the same thing here to get this double stop at the beginning, at the ending. That's my second finger into my third, and then I just play them together. It works because I'm gluing my fingers down. When I put them down on the fingerboard, I leave them there until I absolutely have to lift them. Let's do that tag ending one more time from the leaning double stop. Yeah, okay. So now you have all of part 1. We do a shuffle theme, and then that little tag with the lead. Let's do it. 2 pickups. Glue your third finger. Do it again. 2 pickups. Shuffle. Lean it. I'll do it again one more time, all of part 1. Lean it. And that's all of part 1. Doesn't feel so bad when you think about it as the theme plus that little ending, right? Even though it's longer than we're used to dealing with. It's so tuneful. Really easy to keep your ears on. Alright, so I'm going to go on to part 2. Before I do, you'll notice that I'm playing super even eighth notes, I'm not swinging at all. I'm not doing this. Right? And that's because it's the Texas style to be very, very even rhythmically. When I played it faster, it might have sounded like I was swinging, and that's just because the line is so groovy. But I am not adding any extra rhythm to this. So while you're playing slowly, really make sure it's almost like a classical Vivaldi concerto or something. It's so smooth and so even. And the more you do that right from the start, the more you'll capture that authentic Texas accent that I know we all want. Okay, so part 2 starts just the same with a shuffle theme. Do it. Now we have the turnaround. Cool, right? Did you hear that sassy chromatic in there? See if you can figure out how it's done. I'll do just the turnaround. The pickups are slurred in. Those pickups that I'm playing at the end there get you back to part 1. Alright, so basically I have this triplet pickup that I'm slurring down bow. Now I've glued my third finger again to get those string crossings. Did you catch that? Glue it. Now here's my sassy. That's basically the same as you had at the end of the shuffle theme, right? High third finger, and back to normal. And now jump over and get those 2 pickups that are going to hook into part 1. It's good to practice with those pickups attached because there's a double string crossing in there. You want to make sure you're ready for it. Do the turnaround, triplet pickup. Glue your third finger, sassy. One more time, just the turnaround. Sassy. Alright, that's one you want to make sure you know really well because that same turnaround is going to come back again in the B section. Oh boy, freebies. Alright, so let's put all of part 2 together. We have a shuffle theme and the turnaround. 2 pickups. Shuffle theme. Sometimes on the part 2 what I like to do is a little variation. I just shorten that first group, make it a quarter, 2 slurs, then a regular shuffle. You probably heard that when I played it through all the way. So yeah, you can take it or leave it. Play the normal shuffle pattern, or if you want to do that tiny variation, it can be kind of nice. Let's do one more time part 2. I'll do the tiny variation. You do what you like. They'll both fit together. Turn around. Sassy. Alright, and that brings us back to part 1. Hey, you already know it. Do the shuffle theme. Little I don't know, teasing double stop. And how I'm getting that, it's just a little chromatic move. I have my 4th that I've landed on here, usually at the end of part 1. And then I'm just going to slide my 3rd finger up a half step. My 2nd finger does not move. Regular 4th, slide your 3rd finger up. And that kind of tells people that something exciting is coming, like the ending. And speaking of the ending, let's do it. is, first of all, a little sequence. Neighbor tone, up the scale. Do it again, neighbor tone, up the scale. And then a little finish there. Did you catch that sequence? So I have these pickups, but it basically starts on this D, right? A chromatic neighbor tone below, then go up the scale. Now do the same thing again, neighbor tone, up the scale, same thing here, chromatic neighbor tone below, up the scale, and a little ending to cap it off. Do that one more time, the sequence. I'll do the triplet pickups, notice I'm slowing them in. Is outlining this D minor chord, kind of hip, right? D, neighbor tone up the scale, F, neighbor tone up the scale, A, neighbor tone up the scale. And now we just gotta get out of there. Here's the ending. Did you catch the sassy in there? Fiddlers and viola-ers, those of you who have fourth finger options to replace open strings. In other fiddle styles I wouldn't do that. I would get the string crossings because normally we like the rocking of the string crossings. However, because of all those sassy chromatics, if we played all those open strings, there would be way too many string crossings to keep it smooth. So this is a style where if it helps you to smooth it out by using a fourth finger, it works very well in the faster tunes. Let's put the whole ending together. Sequence. Little ending. Sassy. Notice again when I have my sassy, I'm emphasizing it with a 3-note slur. That's been a common pattern through the whole tune, hasn't it? Do it again. Ending. Sequence. Regular tune of the month, there's all of those are hook 3 patterns. 1, 2, 3, slur, extra. 1, 2, 3, slur, extra. 1, 2, 3, slur, extra. Most of those sassy chromatics happen to end up where the hook 3 pattern would fall naturally. So you can do that bowing pattern and it's just going to take good care of you through the whole tune. That ending is going to come back in the B section, so make sure you feel really good about it. Rewind the video, get some more reps in, right? We like having that. Okay, so that's the whole A section. Let's actually put it together one more time, just so you can get the feel of this long form. We're going to start, of course, with the A shuffle pattern. Section, of course, you would repeat it, and I encourage you to do so several times and get real comfy with it. But for right now, I'm moving on to the B section. Okay, so the B section has very much the same structure where there's a theme that starts part 1 and 2, and then it's going to have the exact same turnaround and ending as the A section, so we do not actually have that much to learn here. The B theme happens to be these really hip double stops. Right? So, I'll show you how to do those real quickly, again, we're using some techniques that I've taught in detail in past Tune of the Month videos, so if this feels a little fast for you, that's okay. Just go back in the catalog, go back to the tunes where we first did these skills, and check them out. You'll get real comfortable. What I'm using here is third position. All right, and we've talked about it in the past, but just the quick version, if you need to get to third position, you have where you would normally play your third finger, high A, and notice I'm matching it with my open A string, testing it, I like to say. And instead of playing my third finger there, I'm going to put my first finger in that same spot. And I can tell I'm in the same place again by matching it with my A string. That's third position. And that's the top of my double stop, that first finger A. To make the bottom, this is a third, I need my low third finger. Sounds like a doorbell. Ding dong, ding dong. All right, you got that double stop? Then I go back to first position. Right, and I'm looking for this fourth, my second finger there, my first finger low on the E string. And to get that little melodic thing, I just add a third finger on the bottom. The top first finger does not change. All right, and as usual, I'm using that old-time bowing pattern, down, up, down. Right? So that's the theme. Let's put those two double stops together. Find third position. Ready? Back to first. Good. Try it again. Find third position. And get your third. Rhythm. 2, 3, and down. One more time just for fun. And here's the tag ending. Section, isn't it? I'm starting up bow with a slur because I've just ended down bow here. Sassy. Back to normal. And that same fourth on the bottom, third finger, second finger that you've been doing the whole time. Do the tag ending again. One more time for fun. Tag ending. I think you got it. Put all of part one together. You need the double stops. Find third position. Here we go. Part one. Tag it. Yeah. Do it again. Find third position. You should be getting real good at that by now. Okay, part two, well, find third position, it's the same double stop theme. And now the same turnaround from the A section. Yeah, put that together again. Were you surprised how well you do that? Try it again, part two, double stop theme. Two pickups up here to get back to third position for part one. Tag it. Now just like the A section, prepare the ending. And you already know this ending. Hey, and that's the whole B section. You practically knew the whole thing going in. You just had to learn that double stop theme, which is not that bad. It's just kind of cool. So let's put the whole B section together so you can feel how it all fits. Find third position. Tag it. Part two. Turn around. Prepare the ending. And that's the whole B section. Of course, in real life you would repeat it, and again, I encourage you to do so. Rewind the video, go over and over, get really comfy with this bass solid version of the melody. All right, now once you've gotten really comfortable with that melody, maybe it's right now or maybe you want to go practice for a little bit and then come back. But let's spend the last few minutes of the video here looking at some ways that we can add some improvisation into this melody, because that is the Texas style. We've talked about how to make variation in various different styles in the past. In the Celtic and the Canadian styles, how we would create variation is by changing up the left hand ornaments, right? Using different flaps and taps and rolls and things like that we've talked about. In the old time styles, we would change up the tune by changing some bowing, maybe some rhythm, maybe changing where we put the double stops. We've done this in past Tune of the Month videos, the old time tunes like the Yellow Barber a couple months ago. But in the Texas style and the bluegrass style, heading more toward that neck of the woods, how the variation is created is by actually changing the melody. Not wildly, not free-for-all like in jazz. We're still going to follow the same contour of the melody, right? When it goes up, we go up. When it goes down, we go down, because we still want people to recognize the tune. But the Texas philosophy is that if you play exactly the same notes every time, that gets a little boring because people already know them if they've heard them before. And so how you put your personal spin on it is by playing around with the order that you put the notes in, right? And this tends to happen over the places that keep coming back the same. Hint, hint, it's all about the endings. In Texas contest style fiddling, the endings are the best place to start throwing variation. It's the first place they would expect you to kind of say, okay, people, you know how this is going to go. Let me try something a little different. So let's try something a little different. Let's take the ending. This ending that comes back so many times. Play it the way you know it. We could do that are different. How about, we know we have the sequence. My first thought is, that's a lot of notes. What if I were to take some out? Ooh, that sounds different. Do you see what I did there? Rather than going neighbor tone up the scale, neighbor tone up the scale, I was just playing with the idea of the neighbor tones. This one's below, this one's above, and then this one's below but emphasized. Try that again. Yeah, so that's kind of a variation that I know clearly because I could repeat it back to you. I kind of worked it out, got it off a transcription, so it's in my fingers. But what if I were to try something completely different? Okay, so what I thought there, rather than doing a neighbor tone, I'll try a lower interval. Now I put in a triplet, and I did again. I think that's what I did anyway. And those triplets are kind of fun, they're chromatic. And that gives it a little extra sass. I could actually do those triplets every time, couldn't I? That's kind of cool. I could also do that longer, that bigger interval. I used the fourth instead of the neighbor tone. I could do that. I'd probably do that. Ideas for the sequence, and then each one kind of put me in a slightly different position getting to the ending of the ending. And you notice I kind of ended up with some different stuff. One time I had something like this. That's kind of cool. I put my sassy up on top. And I still end up at the same place. I could also start on the top note. Rather than that's not very different different in my fingers, but because it shifts where the high note falls in the phrase, it has a really different quality to it. So right there are 3 different ways you can play around with that ending. Now, when we do the whole ending together, essentially all you're doing is making 2 different decisions. Make one for the sequence, and then one for the ending. I'll improvise something here just for fun. I like those chromatic triplets. Maybe I'll try those. So that was actually pretty close to what I did before, because my fingers kind of like that pattern. I can't repeat exactly what I did for you there because I was improvising. I couldn't repeat it exactly if my life depended on it. What I could do if I were looking for variations working on this tune, and what I do, by the way, is record myself. Hey! Record myself playing, and when I play something that I like, I stop playing, I rewind the tape, and I go back and say, hey, what was it that I did there? And I essentially learn my own lick from myself. That's for stuff I like. Once I learn it from myself, I can use it at any point. Well, you notice when I performed the whole tune through at the beginning, I used a lot of different things that I already knew about. I wasn't flat out improvising, although I could have been, right? So if you liked that lick that I did, by all means, rewind the video and learn it. If you don't like it, whatever, it was just one time. It's the same when I'm playing at home. If I play something I don't like, no problem. About 90% of what you're going to play when you're working on a tune like this, coming up with variations, is probably going to end up being I don't really like that. That's my percentage anyway, somewhere between 80 and 90% total garbage. It ends up on the cutting room floor, covered in eraser shavings, whatever metaphor you want to throw at that. But that's okay, because the time to play stuff that doesn't sound good is when you're practicing by yourself. Right? And then you want to save the ideas that you know sound good and have them a little bit in your pocket so you can return to them at a future playthrough. I'll play one more ending just for the fun of it. And that was maybe what I shouldn't have done. I got caught up too high. Did you see that? So I kind of liked that it went up high, but I didn't get back down fast enough to nail the ending. If I liked that idea, later on I'd have to go back and figure out a faster way to get down that arpeggio so I can get my high notes in, but still arrive at the appropriate ending at the appropriate time. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of stuff to play around with, and not so much here are the notes to play, but here's how to start searching for ways to play it yourself. Let's actually look at one more place that's great for improvisation in this tune, and that happens to be right here on that B theme. Now you may have noticed that sounds cool the first few times you play it, but after you've played it 3 or 4 times, it starts to be like, okay, we've heard it already. And when you start to get that feeling in your tummy, that tells you it's time to come up with a variation. All right, so I could do this in an old-fashioned way rather than playing this rhythm. I could just variate the rhythm. Actually really effective. I just played quarter notes. Right, so it's not really that sophisticated of a variation, but if you just throw it once, it's different enough from the traditional rhythm that it's like, oh, interesting. So that's a freebie. But really, what we're doing here, that's an F chord, right? This whole thing is an F major arpeggio, played in double stops. So what a lot of the Texas guys do is say, okay, we'll throw out the double stops and we'll just play around with this F arpeggio. Yeah, well that was hip. Let's take a look at what I did. I essentially have this F major arpeggio with an extra note, the D. Now I'm going to play the same pattern but starting one note lower. And again. And then I'm back where I belong. See how I did that? Yep. And that's one, again, that I know pretty well because I've played around with it. What if we did something different? Whoa, that was cool. That's one I might I might go back and learn myself. So I started with, what happens if I move this sassy right up front. And then I took that same F arpeggio that we did before, right? And then I did something with a chromatic. That wasn't that, it was better than that. I'll have to go back and check it out. But you get the idea? If you like anything I did here, by all means, rewind, steal, borrow, I don't care if you like it, by all means use it. I do the same thing when I'm listening to recordings of great Texas players that I like. Steal, right, and left. It's often the highest compliment you can give someone. And then if anybody ever says to you, hey, where'd you get that blistering lick? You can say, hey, I got it off this fiddler, which I'm always happy to brag about where I got my licks, who actually came up with them. Alright guys, so this is a lot of ideas, but hopefully it gives you some awesome things to start playing with this tune and with other tunes that are either Texas themselves or that you want to handle like a Texas tune and start getting this melodic variation in. There's loads to play with, so have a good time, play a lot of different ideas, don't be afraid to play things that sound bad. That's how you're going to end up finding the really cool stuff that becomes your signature licks. Alright. So most of this is improv, but as always, if it helps you to see sheet music for this tune, you can become a member of my email newsletter. Go to my website, www.mariblack.com, and I will send out an email once a month, which will include the sheet music for that tune of the month. Therefore, if you are already a member, you already have Crafton Blues in your inbox. And if you're brand new, don't worry, you'll get sheet music for all future tunes of the month so you can keep tuning in. And yeah, I hope you have fun with this. I can't wait to hear what you come up with when we bump into each other out in the real world. And until next month, or until I see you unexpectedly in real life, have fun.